Hello everyone, my name is Jody Jones and I am a master's student in the Poultry and Food Science department in the Sensory Analysis and Consumer Science Laboratory. And I will present to you today my project for Agri 7080 titled Effects of Stunning and Marinade Methods on Odor Sensory Evaluation of Raw Chicken Thighs Across Storage Days. Odor is one of the earliest and most important indicators of poultry freshness and consumer acceptability. Attributes like liking, freshness, and off odor are directly tied to perceived quality, and they can shift depending on processing factors such as stunning method, marination, and storage time. Previous research has shown that these factors can influence consumer perception, and understanding these effects helps improve product quality and shelf life. This study focuses specifically on how these processing and storage variables shape odor perceptions in raw chicken thighs. My study had three main objectives. Objective number one was to evaluate how stunning method, marinade, and storage day affect odor attributes including overall aroma liking, off odor, ammonia odor, fermented odor, and salty or bright notes. Objective 2 was to determine how these sensory attributes relate to one another. For example, whether freshness and liking move together or whether spoilage odors cluster. And Objective 3 was to identify broader sensory patterns using multivariate tools like PCA and Pure-in-Qual. For my hypothesis, we began with the null hypothesis that stunning, marinade, and storage day would have no effect on sensory attributes and that no relationships would exist among these attributes. And our alternative hypothesis was that at least one factor would influence odor perception and that correlations would exist among the sensory attributes. For this study, we used raw chicken thigh samples prepared under 4 treatment conditions, which were electric stun, gas stun, electric stun with marinade, and gas stun with marinade. We recruited 52 sensory panelists, and all evaluations were conducted using Red Jade sensory software. Panelists evaluated samples across multiple days, and they rated 6 odor-related attributes, including overall odor liking, freshness, off odor, ammonia, fermented odor, and brine or salty odor. We used a repeated measures design, meaning each panelist evaluated all treatments on both storage days. For this experimental design, we used 2 stunning methods, which were gas and electrical, and 2 marinade conditions, which were no marinade versus marinade, and also 2 storage days, which were day 1 and day 7. These produced 4 treatment combinations and each evaluated on both days by all 52 panelists. So this slide shows the structure of my dataset, which included panelists' ID, treatment factors, storage day, and all the sensory ratings. And this structure allowed us to run model analysis and repeated measure comparisons. For statistical analysis, we used proglymix to evaluate the effects of stunning, marinade, and day on each sensory attribute. And we also ran Pearson correlation to examine relationships among attributes, and PCA and Pure-in-Qual was also used to evaluate multivariate patterns and consumer preference directions. Starting with the results for glymic analysis for overall odor liking, I used a macro for establishing the lower value of AIC, which was compound symmetry, and after that I evaluated type 3 tests, which indicated that stunning method has a small but statistically significant effect on overall aroma liking, and storage day also significantly affects liking for day 1 versus day 7. And electric stun chicken is liked more than gas stun chicken regardless of marinade, and that gas and no marinade is the lowest liked combination. Also, marinated day 7 samples have the highest liking, and all other combinations are statistically similar. So in a sensory matter, this means that marinade aroma becomes more pleasant or maybe more noticeable by day 7, and that marinade may mask early spoilage odors, and day 7 marinated chicken is liked more than day 1 marinated chicken. For off-odor results, day is the strongest factor, and stunning method also significantly affects off-odor, which is gas versus electric, but marinade does not significantly affect odor. Also, all 4 combinations share A, which means that there was no significant differences. Even though stunning is significant in the type 3 table, the pairwise differences are small and do not separate into different Tukey groups. And for day 1 samples, both marinated and non-marinated have significantly higher off-odor than day 7 samples. And day 7 samples have significantly lower off-odor. For the ammonia odor intensity results, stunning method is the only significant factor to ammonia odor, and gas stun samples have higher ammonia odor than electric stun samples. Also, electric stun samples are significantly lower in ammonia, both marinated and non-marinated, and marinade does not change ammonia within each stunning method. For fermented odor, day is the strongest factor, which fermented odor increases from day 1 to day 7. And stunning method also significantly affects fermented odor, which is gas versus electric, and marinade does not significantly affect fermented odor. Gas stun samples have higher fermented odor than electric stun samples, and electric stun samples, marinated and not marinated, are significantly lower in fermented odor. And also, day 1 samples are significantly different from day 7 samples. For brine odor intensity, day is the strongest factor, and we have both two-way interactions, stunning day and marinade day, and three-way interaction is highly significant. This means that the effect of day on salty odor depends on stunning method and marinade. Day 1 samples have significantly higher salty brine odor than day 7 samples, and on day 1 salt and phosphates are still in the surface, so it's more detectable salty brine aroma. And electric day 7 is significantly lower than all day 1 samples. Day 1 samples are not significantly higher in salty odor than day 7 samples, and marinated day 7 is the lowest salty odor. We can conclude that salty odor depends on all 3 factors together, which is stunning method, marinade, and storage date. And for Pearson correlation analysis, we can conclude that consumers like samples that smell fresh and dislike samples with off odor and ammonia. And freshness of odor and ammonia form a tight spoilage cluster, and that salty brined odor is not a driver of liking and does not behave like a spoilage indicator. Also, in these PCA analysis, we identified the eigenvalues for PCA 1 and 2, and we concluded that we can use both of the PCAs. And PCA confirms a strong sensory structure, which is freshness and liking are on the same direction, which means they are correlated within one another, and that spoilage odors indicate disliking, like fermented, of odor, and ammonia odor. For this reason, we can conclude that storage date was the dominant factor influencing sensory attributes, and stunning method had also a significant effect on spoilage odors for gas and electric, while marinade had very minimal impact except on salty and brined odor, and freshness strongly increased liking, while off odor, ammonia, and fermented odor decreased liking. And consumer preferences is driven by freshness and absence of spoilage cues. Thank you.